Okay, on to the reason why we're all here is to hear from our fantastic speakers today. So today we're joined by Matt Scott. Matt is an industry-leading nonprofit fundraiser, an innovative leader who currently leads the CauseMic crew and helping a diverse range of nonprofits raise millions of dollars online. And he and his team have worked with some amazing nonprofit clients. We also have Jacob Talbot. I'm just realizing I don't think I've ever had to pronounce your last name, so you will correct me later if I totally mess that up. Anyway, he is the senior marketing manager at Twilio, and he's helped thousands of social impact organizations harness the power of communication technology to serve populations globally. And we're also joined by Janet Park, Solutions Marketing Manager at Twilio, who's focused on community building through great storytelling, problem solving, and effective communication. Welcome to each of you. Thank you so much for being with us. Jacob, how badly did I mess up your last name?
You're so darn close. It's Talbot, just like the store Talbots.
I haven't thought of that store in the longest time. So thanks for that walk down memory lane. Amazing. Okay, well, at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Janet, who's going to get this show on the road. Actually, I think Matt, but Janet, you're driving. We're good. I see the
Oh, that's
slides.
cool. I thought you were throwing us out with our first 2021 Audible to kick off the Zoom season. What's up, nonprofit movers and shakers? I'm really stoked to be here today with all of you, not just because 2020 sucked and we're now in 2021, yay, but really because we're here partnering with TechSoup. Thank you for having us and hosting this incredible content, as well as our partners at Twilio. Super jealous of Janet's title, by the way, solutions marketing. You know what? Anytime you have solution in the title, it just means that you're action oriented. That's really what we have planned for you today. Is content that will help you move the needle, to demonstrate impact, to share your compelling story, to build on that momentum from year end, and really build an engaged supporter base, whether that's volunteers, fundraisers, donors, advocates across all of your channels. Twilio is here to help support, and we're going to cover both content as well as technology. So buckle up. It's going to be an action-packed, 40 minutes and then a bunch of Q&A time. So yeah, Jen, I don't know, next slide. I mean, it's all yours now, right? Oh, a little bit about us. Okay, sorry about that. That's the worst part. Yeah, I feel like Nicole teed us up well. We're a digital marketing agency. We exclusively serve nonprofit organizations. We help them rapidly scale revenue by focusing on people, process, and technology. And we give away lots of cool resources. We're happy and proud to partner with TechSoup to provide nonprofits like yours some resources to help democratize what we do with our clients. That's really enough about us. Over to you, Janet.
All right, Matt, thanks so much for the intro. And like Matt said, we're really excited to be here with you all today. I'll kick it off by sharing a little bit about Twilio if you aren't familiar with us already. But we are a customer engagement platform bringing together people from across all businesses and organizations to transform your customer and constituent experiences. And we really believe that communication is at the center of these experiences. So with our customer engagement platform, you can use any tool, service, or solution in a way that fits your needs. So whether you're kicking off a fundraising campaign or setting up a crisis response hotline. So today, our platform is used by over 190,000 organizations worldwide, reaching customers in more than 100 countries. So we've really seen how communications can help social impact organizations specifically solve some of the world's biggest problems and change lives for the better. That's why our social impact arm, Twilio.org, uses our tech, our employees, and our funding to help nonprofits use communications to change lives. So for example, the International Rescue Committee uses Twilio Flex, which is our contact center solution, and our WhatsApp API to connect refugees fleeing violence in Latin America with critical health, legal, and financial resources to help them reach safety. And the American Red Cross and Special Olympics actually both use Twilio SMS in two very different ways. So the American Red Cross uses SMS to dispatch trained first responders 50% faster to the scene of emergencies, while the Special Olympics uses SMS to activate a very successful peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. So today, we're really excited to be partnering with CauseMic and TechSoup to talk trends and best practices for engaging new and current supporters, building off the incredible momentum of the giving season. Then Matt will take it away about how you can best prioritize efforts in the new year. And Jacob will walk us through a demo of how you can start building and using these best practices step by step. So first, let's set the stage for how we've seen the use of digital communications change in the past few years and some best practices to take advantage of this changing landscape. So as we've seen over the last decade, nonprofit fundraising has really changed, and it's continuing to change. In the last year alone, COVID-19 has really upended the traditional nonprofit communications roadmap. We could no longer rely on in-person events, fundraisers, and the like. So we're all spending a lot more time connected to digital communications like SMS, email, and over-the-top channels like Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp. So while this trend isn't new, it has been accelerated. In fact, 96% of businesses and organizations say that COVID actually sped up their digital transformation by up to 6 years. So while a lot of this transformation is taking place, the state of how organizations are communicating with their consumers or their donors is still not pretty. The vast majority are still annoyed by what they receive today. People are tired of receiving generic communications that's not relevant to them, or they don't remember opting into, or on a channel that's not right for them. So far, it's pretty clear when organizations engage people in the way they prefer, they're rewarded, primarily by further engagement. And when organizations send out generic messages that don't make sense for the person, they unsubscribe. And we all know how hard it is to turn an opt-out back into an opt-in. So understanding how to utilize digital engagement is no longer a nice to have. It's an essential way for nonprofits to attract and retain donors and support to achieve their missions. To think about how we can start building relationships with donors through digital communications, let's look at the types of communications and channels that we have available. So first, we have our promotional communications. These advertise or promote an event, service, or offer. Then we have our transactional communications, which is pretty self-explanatory. It facilitates a transaction or provides an update about a transaction. And then we have our conversational communications. So this is any two-way engagement between you and your supporters. Let's go over a couple examples of what these look like. So for our promotional communications, this is the bread and butter of any fundraising campaign. So I'm sure you are all familiar with donation solicitations, event invitations, program announcements, and impact updates. And then we have our transactional communications. These aren't typically promotional in nature, but these are essential to supporting the growing relationship with your supporters. That said, it's sometimes recommended to include some promotional content in your messages, but this can be as simple as adding a thank you to the end of your donation receipts. And conversational communications are, again, any engagement between two parties, but this can be facilitated with a person or with a bot. So conversational communications can really help build your donor relationships by allowing you to connect with your supporters. You can be more responsive to donor interests by answering questions about your programs and ways supporters can become involved. As this is one of the best ways to learn about your audience, we really encourage this, but I know you might be thinking, this seems very high lift, we're understaffed as it is, we don't have time to do this, but a really great way that you can scale this type of communication is by setting up an SMS bot or a chat bot to actually respond to the most common queries and the FAQs. And then that gives your team a lot more time to have those more in-depth conversations where you are actually getting a lot of engagement and showing ways that your supporters can become involved. So we just went over the types of content that we typically see with nonprofit communications. Now let's go over the communication channels that we have available. So today there's a lot of them. And it seems like every year there's a new channel to learn. Not long ago, digital marketing meant sending email. And if you had a digital newsletter, you were on the cutting edge. But now there's SMS, there's over-the-top channels like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and web chat, and of course, voice. So in this table, we highlight some of the key characteristics to consider about each of these channels according to three main categories. We have engagement, accessibility, and content. So while we won't go over every field in this graph, I'll give you an example of how we can think about this. So say, for example, you have an event coming up next week and you want to send a message to your supporters reminding them of the event. It is fairly time sensitive. We do want them to see this now. So it seems like SMS, voice, and your over-the-top channels might be some good options here. It is a very quick and easy to understand CTA, so you can keep it pretty short. And it'd be really easy to attach the image of the flyer that you have coming up. So looking at this chart, it seems like SMS might be your best option here with a short content length and the ability to attach rich media. Now that we've gone over the different types of content that we see and the channels we have available, let's go over some best practices for how you can build your multi-channel donor communications. First, let's start with permission. When we ask people what they care about most when communicating with a business or an organization, clear opt-in and opt-out preferences were at the top of the list. And I'm sure we've all received a message from an organization that we're not sure how or when we opted into their communications, and it doesn't set us off on the right foot with them. But when you do send a message to one of your supporters and they can immediately recall when they opted in, that takes the surprise factor away, and then they can go straight into engaging with the content that you've sent them. So getting permission actually serves multiple objectives at once. First, it builds trust with your audience. Second, it's required by many country, state, and local regulations, as well as carrier industry guidelines, which helps prevent your communications from getting flagged as spam and negatively impacting your deliverability rate. So a couple quick ways that you can actually cover this is first with an SMS opt-in. You can provide a phone number for people to text into. This works really well with campaigns and events as well, because you can have your supporters actually text in a specific word that is attached to a campaign event, which makes it easier later on if you do want to personalize some of your content, you understand which avenue the supporter came in through. Then you can also use a web form or opt for the option to receive updates when someone makes a donation. Next, meet people on the right channel. So using the right channel doesn't necessarily mean using every channel. Instead, focus on learning which channels your audience uses to communicate, which they'd like to use to engage with you, and when they would like to receive communications on those channels. But keep in mind that channel preferences may change depending on the types of communication you're sending. While email is many people's preferred channel for receiving communications from organizations, SMS is most preferred when those communications are urgent. So for example, when I'm engaging with my healthcare provider, I actually like receiving my appointment reminders over text or SMS. It's a little bit urgent. It's a very quick message, so it just makes the most sense. But when I'm receiving information about, say, when I can sign up for a COVID vaccine, this has a lot more content in it, and I would rather receive it over email. This is something I might want to go back to and try to understand a bit better. You can embed links to help me figure out different parts of it that I don't understand, and an option to reply as well if I have a question. So to determine which channels you should use, ask yourself, how urgent is this message? What type of content am I sending? Does it need to be acted on quickly or saved for later? Do I want my recipient to reply to this message? And what channels have my supporters already opted into? And next, I'm sure you've heard this best practice about 1,000,000 times, but personalize your content. Personalization is more than putting someone's first name at the start of an email. Great personalization demonstrates an understanding of what your audience cares about and then speaks directly to this interest in a way that's specific and relevant to them. So one way you can increase relevance is by analyzing the data you already have about your supporters in your system of record, like a CRM. This, of course, includes contact name, but also location, demographic information, engagement history, and interests. And then with communication APIs, you can actually incorporate this personalization programmatically so that each message is unique to the recipient while enabling you to work at scale. So your API provider should offer you the flexibility to customize the channel and sending logic so that you can focus on the content that's relevant to your supporters. Next, use multimedia. So great fundraising campaigns actually bring your audience right into the impact that your organization is making. One of the best ways to do this is with multimedia like images, audio, and video. And when used correctly, this really brings your programs to life and can increase donor conversion rates. We have a really good example of this on the right, thanks to CauseMic and the Oregon Humane Society. So first, we see a very simple, easy to understand image that evokes an emotion. When I receive this text, I am so excited that I can help 20 puppies this week. And then after that, you see a very also easy to understand call to action there and a link right below that for the CTA of where to donate. So this is a really great example of how you can instill an emotion and have a very clear goal. Remember, different channels have different constraints for what you can and can't send. So a couple of those considerations are here. Typically, it's around the type of content or multimedia that you can send and the size limit. Last but not least, control your frequency. So just like we said, sending on the right channel doesn't necessarily mean sending on every channel. Sending at the right time doesn't necessarily mean sending your messages all the time. Sometimes less is more. Again, I'm sure we've all had that experience when we actually did opt into an organization's messages and we were interested in what they had to say. But then you received one too many messages that week or sometimes even that day, and then they go into the opt-out bucket. Again, we want to stay out of that bucket. And so we really want to be intentional about the messages that we're sending. And a great way to, again, stay out of that bucket is balancing your donation asks with program updates, big wins, and thank yous. Another pet peeve that it seems that a lot of donors and supporters have is when every message they receive from an organization is about an ask to donate. And so you really want to sprinkle these in with big wins and impact progress or impact updates so that your supporters can really feel like they know how they're contributing to the impact you're making. This also allows them to continue engaging with your content until you're ready to make that next ask. Next, you can try sending at different times of day. There's typically the best practice that say sending a message on a Thursday at 3 p.m. is the best way to get open rates. But what we've actually found is that there's a lot more diversity in preference of when they want to receive messages than we've thought. So what might be the best for the audience of different organization might not be the same for yours. So we recommend testing it out and seeing what is the most successful there. Last but not least, to wrap this up, you want to time your messages to align with moments of action. So really thinking about how you can be intentional with your asks and with your updates. A really good way to do this is actually zooming out and looking at your calendar of events that are coming up and when you want to do the big push for donations, and then sprinkling in the program updates, big wins, and thank yous in between those so that you're aware of when you're ready to make that next ask. All right, now I'll kick it over to Matt.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. You shared so many amazing pro tips there. We balanced all kinds of good things here. I'm going to share a little bit about content marketing strategy now, right? Twilio shared a lot of best practices and technologies on how to make a omni-channel or multi-channel marketing campaign come to life. I'm going to share a little bit about the content that really moves the needle. And we're going to use a specific example from a year-end campaign that our team managed and how you can carry that momentum forward into the coming year. Let's start with why the traditional marketing funnel is flawed, right? 97% of people who get to a nonprofit's website are not going to make a donation. 97% will not actually convert. 83% who click on donate and land on your donation page will not actually make a contribution. And that's because the traditional marketing funnel is flawed. Kind of has this, this notion that gravity is just going to take people through it. But as we heard from Janet, what's really important is that we communicate with constituents on the right message, with the right, on the right channel with the right message at the right time to evoke an emotional response. That's how we're going to kind of convert at a higher rate. The other key, there we go. The other thing is about reducing friction, right? And it's really about focusing on the metrics that really matter. The ones that really matter are website traffic, conversion rate, and average gift amount. These are the three metrics that when you focus on it with respect to online giving and you measure them, if you can move any one of these, you're going to see your revenue grow. If you can move 2 or 3 of these, you're going to see exponential growth in revenue. And that's really important to measure because that allows you to see which content is working and what's not working. As we've already heard, giving is different from buying something, right? to give something, you have to evoke an emotional response. You have to have a feeling. You have to feel like you have to take that action. So that Oregon Humane Society example evoked an emotional response from the recipient. So there are three main drivers as to why people give: heroism, kin selection, and empathy. Heroism is because they themselves think that an action that they can take can make a meaningful difference in an issue that they care about. Kin selection is when people give to people like them or who have a shared experience. And empathy is similar to kin selection in that you have this feeling that you have this shared experience, but you might not be as closely connected. So you might not be geographically tied, or you might not be a part of a similar tribe or group, right? So those are three reasons why people give. And this type of content that you deliver can really make a difference when you tap into that emotional response as to why people give. Here's an example of a multimedia campaign. Dig Deep is this amazing organization that's providing clean drinking water to Navajo Nation right here in the United States. There is a lot of people who are at Navajo Nation who do not have access to clean drinking water. And you talk about balancing that solicitation versus cultivation, and where is that? We actually started doing impact storytelling way ahead of year-end giving. So we started to share stories about what's happened since last year, what progress was made, how is there still an urgent need coming up, and what is the plan to combat that need? We need 2 new water trucks. We need 100 Navajo families to have clean drinking water kits installed in their home. This was the kind of impact storytelling and reporting that was happening weeks ahead of the giving season that primed the donor in order to make a solicitation so that people didn't feel like the only thing they were receiving was a solicitation. Here are some of the channels that we used: website, email, text, paid digital, and direct mail. We used all of these, and we built multiple audiences across multiple channels, and we had these key content pillars. So the story arc traveled from one channel to another. So you can actually repeat some of this content. I love that slide about long form versus short form. You could take your longer pieces and break them up into smaller pieces of content for the right channel. The content strategy, really thinking about who is the audience. Are you a donor? Are you a volunteer? Are you a fundraiser? Are you an advocate? And how do we play into which of those you are, depending on like, how do we move a one-time donor to a monthly donor? Or how do we make a fundraiser turn to a transactional fundraiser? Those are the kinds of things that you want to be thinking about when you develop a content journey, dependent on which audience they are. Here's a landing page that we built, right? And this is one of we had all this different channels driving towards this one spot that was optimized. And I talked about how 93 or 97% of people who visit your nonprofit website won't convert. The conversion rates you're going to see in a second were really, really high. What do we love about this? Strong branding, clear call to action. It's above the fold. There's no navigation, so there's no friction. Most nonprofits have all these options for donors when they get to their site. You can go check out programming. You can check about us. You can do all these other things. We just want you to donate. So you want to strip away all of that and have a single call to action that reduces friction and has a really clean message. Here's some examples of emails that we used, right? What we really liked about these is that they're personalized. They have a clear message. Again, nice branding. They do showcase the community and those that were served. And you can see when you go from the email to the landing page that there's continuity. That story arc continues across channels. We had here, time sensitive, whether it was matching challenges or take advantage of your tax deductible year-end kind of contribution, especially with the changes under the CARES Act. We leaned into those from email, and then we drove back into that story on the optimized donation page. Here's an example of text. You talk about how two-way engagement. This expresses gratitude. It shares a video and gives this user an opportunity to opt out easily. I love that Janet shared about email deliverability and deliverability across all of your channels is super important. If you deliver content that matters to people and not just solicitations or kind of content that isn't interesting, they're going to want to engage in your content, and you actually want to clean your list. You don't want a bunch of contacts who don't want to hear from you on that channel. So you want to make it easy for people to move in and out of your content streams. Also love this. It feels like it comes from a real person. This is actually powered by Twilio, and it's really cool. It's with another tool that is built on top of Twilio's technology and platform. Here's another text, right? Again, it's personalized, clearly communicates the goal for Giving Tuesday. It's a very tangible goal. You know exactly what that contribution is going to do. Again, it feels like a text from a real person, and the shared image speaks to that matching gift, right? So you can use multimedia, you can use video to demonstrate impact, you can use an image in order to have an urgent appeal like the matching gift. Here's some paid digital that we did. What's super effective about this is it's clear, consistent messaging. What optimizes things on different channels varies. So on paid, we actually see video performing at a higher rate than we did. And we literally did A/B testing because you don't know. It changes based on campaign, it changes based on audience, it changes based on channel. So it's important to kind of A/B test stills versus video versus long form content. Again, this is just really good, demonstrates impact, and it has a clear story arc about what we're trying to achieve, what the problem is, and how the donor can take action to provide clean drinking water to Navajo Nation for year end. Here's the direct mail piece. You know, people talk about how an omni-channel strategy, is it all online? Is it all digital? The answer is no. We use tools like Handwritten with an integration in Salesforce that are triggered by Twilio in order to send a handwritten thank you card. We can send a direct mail appeal like this that's personalized. It talks about the Navajo Water Project. It reinforces the messaging from the previous content that was sent out. It references the donation that was already made. It feels very personalized. And it talks about the growing up in Navajo Nation, and it personalizes and humanizes the story. So that's just, it's really, really important there as well. Golden rule, just ask yourself when you look at content, would I want to receive this message? Would I want to receive this message? Is it interesting? Is it compelling? Does it match the platform? Test it, send it to your text message and say, oh, wow, that didn't look good on text. Kind of piece that together. So again, you know, we talked about how 97% of people who land on your nonprofit website won't make a gift. 83% who click donate won't make a gift. Check out these conversion rates that we saw from having an optimized page with an omni-channel communications strategy that took a story arc and a clear message and a clear need. We saw conversion rates 52% on the website, right? That's crazy high. These numbers are just blowing industry averages out of the water. And it's because we optimized against conversion rate, average gift amount, and website traffic by channel. And we looked at what was working, and we did real testing during the campaign, and we weren't afraid to change an Audible. And actually, they raised over close to $400,000, 4 times more than they had raised last year when they weren't using this same strategy. You don't have to have a really big budget in order to maximize this strategy. I love that about what TechSoup provides, love that about what Twilio provides our clients. You can implement Twilio for Salesforce, for example. It's like $15 a month. It's super accessible. You can use a Twilio flow. You don't have to be a developer. You don't have to have, you know, all these things. One of the ways that we've seen really nonprofits maximize a small budget is through putting a little bit of money, $500 or $1,000 behind paid digital, because on average, nonprofits only going to reach about 2 to 3% of their organic social followers. So you got to put a little bit of paid money there. You can build an audience that looks like your existing donors. You can build an audience that retargets. So you have the Facebook pixel for the first, last 90 days. For people who land on your website, you can serve those ads to them, and you don't have to be spending a ton of money. Yeah, your campaign is all wrapped up. Now, how do you move this momentum forward? How do we take the lessons learned from year end and move them forward? This is when that engagement, now is the time to thank your donors. Now is the time to demonstrate impact, to tell them what your plans are for 2021, what you're going to do programmatically, and how they are going to make that happen because of the contribution they made. It's not the time to ask for money. It's the time to really demonstrate impact. And we love Q1 to upgrade donors from one-time donors to recurring donors. But before you get there, you got to start talking honestly about what the plans are for 2021 and how your year-end donors have empowered you. We like to use this impact matrix to help our clients prioritize all the things that need to be done. So maybe that's a new donor welcome series. Maybe that's a year-end donor impact series. So thanking the people who just gave, all those things take effort. So make a huge list of all the things. Content journeys, maybe you want to implement text message and then you want to implement another channel. Make a whole list and prioritize them based on the highest possible impact at the lowest cost. So implementing Twilio for Salesforce, for example, super easy. That should be a high impact, low cost priority one project for you. Versus, let's say, if you want to build an omni-channel campaign that has 5 channels, that might be a lot more effort, right? But it might still be high impact. So maybe that's a priority too. This gives you kind of a metrics in order to use it. We find it really, really helpful. I kind of covered this a little bit, trying to talk quick. We got so much content. We want to leave time for Q&A, and Jacob's going to show an awesome demo of just how easy it is to put this stuff in action. But yeah, why invest in paid digital? Again, paid social, search, and video. Ultimately, if you spend a little bit of money, the bottom line theme is you spend a little bit of money and you're going to reach a lot of people, and you're going to reach the right people. And it's the cheapest way to get in front of your audience and to take the story back to the own channel. So text, back to direct mail, back to email. These are channels that you own and you control. And you can use paid in order to build an audience and reinforce that message. Some of these benchmarks, again, 2% of followers, that's all that it's going to really match. The average cost per click on paid social for nonprofits is just $2.46. That's really, really low. That's awesome. Average click-through rate on paid social is a little under 1%. These are the kinds of metrics that you want to be paying attention to. These are the kinds of things that you really want to optimize, right? We look at different types of content based on donors, volunteers, fundraisers, and advocates to see how our pieces of content are really moving the mark. All right, well, let's build out your first engagement flow. So this is where I'm going to hand it over to Jacob to talk about how to take the content strategy that we talked about, which is really, again, just to cover it real quick, is think about what motivates somebody to give. Think about the programmatic impact that that person is going to have on your mission. Then break up your content by channel and by audience segmentation so that you have one clean story arc across all of your channels, and test different types of content. And don't get overwhelmed. Start with 1 or 2 or 3 different channels and then continue to layer on more. And I promise if you invest in these things, you're going to stand out, because Janet hit it on the head. Before, 5 years ago, if you were doing an email newsletter, you were doing something innovative. But now all these tools are made available and they're accessible. And let's talk about how easy they are. All right, Jacob, it's all you.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Incredible results that you drove in that campaign. And what I'm going to show here is actually a contextualized version of some of what you showed there. And in this demo, we're going to go through what it looks like to actually build an SMS bot, since it's something that we work with a lot of nonprofits on. And we're going to use a tool called Twilio Studio, which is our visual builder for building SMS and interactive voice responding apps. So here we are. We're going to start off in the Twilio console. This is where you do all your work with Twilio. And we're going to navigate over to Studio in the drop-down of products on the left there. And we can create a new flow just by clicking on that button. Then we're going to name our flow Dig Deep to correspond with that campaign. There are a lot of different options for pre-built templates. So if you want to get started with some of these, that's a quick way to go. But we're actually going to start from scratch. And here we're going to start off with a blank canvas. The first thing you see here at the top is a trigger. And this indicates what happens when we receive a message or a phone call to our phone number. In this case, we're going to send a message and then wait for a reply. And we're going to start typing out our message here. And one thing to call out is, as I write this, look at how specific the call to action here is. This is not a generic hello message. It's all about Dig Deep's programs. And there's a clear call to action to text impact, for more information via video, or to text donate to make a donation directly. And then, of course, we want to remain compliant. So we remind people they can text stop at any time to unsubscribe. Message and data rates apply, and Twilio handles all that unsubscribe logic for you on the back end. We're going to link that up for when a message comes in. And then because we provided two options for people to text impact or donate, we want to actually split based on the reply that we receive from the person who we're texting with. And we're going to split based on the body of the text message that we receive from them. And depending on what they text us, we're going to look for something that contains, first, the word impact. So we're going to write that out. And then if we get a text message that contains impact, we're going to send another message. And here we're going to provide a little bit of information about our program. Watch how Dig Deep is keeping clean water flowing to families during COVID-19. We'll provide a link to the video so people can quickly watch it. And we're also going to add a media URL. So these are those images that you've seen in text messages. We can provide that right there to provide some contextualization about what the programs look like in the field. We'll link that up. And then one more widget here. If the body of the text message that we receive contains donate, we're going to send a different text message. So we'll grab that send message widget. And then here we'll type out a different message related to donating. And we want to be really specific about what the impact of that donation will be, just as you saw in some of Matt's examples with the Dig Deep campaign. So $50 covers water delivery for one family for a month. There's a link to donate, and then we'll add that media URL here as well, just to provide that contextualization. We'll link that up. Let's double check our flow. We've got our trigger, message comes in, we send a message, we wait for a reply. If it says impact, we're going to send one message. And then if it says donate, we'll send the other one. Great. So let's publish that. Now, what do we need to do? We need to link that up to a phone number. So we're going to pop over to the phone numbers area of our console. And through the Twilio Super Network, we have local phone numbers in over 100 countries around the world. So it's easy to find something local for your programs. I'm in San Francisco, so I'm going to look for something in a 415 area code. Looks like we've got some here, and this top one looks like it covers SMS and MMS, so we can send text and pictures. That's great. Go ahead and buy that one. Get a confirmation of the functionality there. We can buy that number. Cool, just like that. I've now got a new phone number, and I can link that up to our flow. So we go down to messaging here. We want to configure this to link to our studio flow called Dig Deep. Now we're going to save that. And just like that, in 4 minutes, our SMS bot is live. This is live for all of you to text. If you'd like to text water to 415-316-1704. And you can see exactly what that looks like in practice. So with that in mind, I hope all of you watching that short demo there thought to yourselves, well, heck, I could do that. I could build an SMS bot. I can build a really engaging communication experience. And that is true, right? One thing we like to say at Twilio is we can't wait to see what you build. And in working with nonprofits, the one thing that remains true in every single case is that you're all builders. You're building programs that are supporting people in some of the most critical situations. You're building programs that save the environment in so many different use cases. And the fundraising programs that you're building make all of this work possible. So as we turn to a couple of different ways to think about getting started, I want to provide some context into how you can think about building your own digital communications. And there are a lot of different considerations for different organizations, but there are 3 things that we see come up time and again are the 3 questions on the right here, considering scale, levels of integration, and the degree of flexibility that you need in your solution. So when you think about scale, if you're an organization that's communicating with several hundred or several thousand people, then you might have different considerations than an organization working across the country with maybe tens of thousands of supporters to speak with. So you might think about localization differently, what kind of phone numbers you might want to communicate with, or what the impacts of deliverability are as you scale up your program. When you think about integration, some of you might be using a CRM like Salesforce or HubSpot, or you might manage a lot of data in Google Sheets. You might be needing to integrate with your website or a mobile app. And the different kinds of integrations that you need to connect your communications to your supporter information will help you select the right kind of solution to meet those needs. And then lastly, with flexibility, this is all about thinking about how much control you want to provide to your supporters about the communication channels that they speak with you on, and how you want to connect the information you have about your supporters to those communications. Things like triggering a message when it's the first year anniversary of someone's first donation, or if you want to bring some of that rich contextual information you have about how people engage with your programs into the communications that you send them. So there are a few different options. Once you've sort of assessed what your needs are, there are a few different ways you can go. There are a number of great low and no code services you can use. Twilio Studio is one example that can integrate into all of your backend services. Matt also mentioned Twilio for Salesforce. It's an out-of-the-box app on the App Exchange. And there are also a number of great companies that have built platforms specifically around messaging or around fundraising use cases for nonprofits. And I've listed a few of them below here. Next thing you might consider is if you need more flexibility in your service, you might work with a solutions integrator. This is great if you don't have a developer on staff or on contract, but you still need something that's customized for your needs. And there are a number of great companies that have built practices for nonprofits. Often they offer special nonprofit pricing, and they can help you with everything from designing your communications experience to building it to managing that in the long term. And if you happen to have a developer on staff, if you're a developer yourself, or if you happen to contract with one, then there are a number of great resources to help you build exactly what you need on your own. And building today is not the same as it was in the 90s. It doesn't mean starting from scratch and creating all the code. It's about using building blocks and resources to design what you need without having to reinvent the wheel. And here at Twilio, we offer a whole bunch of docs and quick starts, code samples, and in some cases, pre-built apps that you can then customize for your exact needs. So if you want to build something and own your destiny with your communications, that's a great way to go too. Here on the Twilio.org team, we're here to help you along the way. We've got a team of nonprofit specialists and technical support resources, and we can also help connect you with the right solutions partner to find the right solution for your needs. Through the Impact Access program, we also offer product credits and discounts. So you can get access to a $500 Kickstart credit, which in the context of SMS means you can send over 80,000 text messages here in the US before you have to spend a dime. That means you can do a whole bunch of testing and scaling and figuring out what works for you. And as a member of the program, you'll be invited to apply to our funding rounds through the Impact Fund. To date, we've provided over $15 million to nonprofits all around the world who are serving their constituents. So if you want to learn more about any of that, you can head over to twilio.org/apply. And with that, I'll kick it back over to you, Matt.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jacob. Really. Oh, you can keep sharing there if you'd like.
Cool.
That's great. Yeah. So key takeaways. We covered so much around content. We covered a lot around technology. I think at the end of the day, what it comes down to is compelling content across different channels, reaching each and every one of your supporters on the right channel with the right message at the right time is actually a lot more achievable for nonprofits, big and small, than it ever has been. And it's important to sit down and think about how you can deploy these best practices, these technologies, these kind of omni-channel content strategies at your organization. So I would just think about, look at your year-end campaign, break out let's just take people who gave during year-end, start with that audience, and then begin to think about, okay, what's another audience or channel plan that we could implement? So is it text messaging plus email, plus paid as an example? And how can you then build out a content strategy that goes across different channels so that you can really increase the engagement with your constituents. All right, I think Nicole, we wanted to do some Q&A, and I know you've got a lot of great resources at TechSoup, and I think all of us do. So yeah, CauseMic.com, Twilio.org, TechSoup.org. We're all partnering together to try and help nonprofits. So
that's right. Yeah, we all have really different, unique strengths, and you got a good taste of them today. So first of all, huge thank you to Matt, to Jacob, to Janet. Shared a lot of great information, and just want to remind everyone that you will be getting a copy of the slides. So everything you saw come across your screen, you will get that in an email, in addition to the recording and also any resource links that we shared. So it's going to be bundled nicely for you in an email. Look out for it in the next day or two. And now we're going to head over into Q&A. So we already saw some really great questions come across our virtual desk here, and there's still time to ask questions. We're going to do our best to get to as many as we can in the next 8-9 minutes here. So yeah, why don't we go ahead and dig in? So I know we provided some answers already. So thank you to Franny on the CauseMic side for giving some answers, and same to other folks who are on the line with us today. So let's get to this question first. Does it cost a nonprofit to have the paid social messages, and how much? And I also saw some other questions about social. So let's tackle that one. Who wants to dig into it?
I'm happy to take that one. Yeah, definitely costs money for paid digital. I think the theme I was trying to get across there is it doesn't take that much money. So we have one client, Community Resource Center in Teton Valley, and prior to COVID-19, they received just a couple applications for direct cash distributions a week. When COVID-19 happened, as you can imagine, tons of people were in need of rent assistance, food assistance, all kinds of things, right? So they needed lots more people to know that they had these grants available, but they also needed people to help fund them. So we launched a paid digital campaign with just $500 a month. They had over 200 applicants a week that were coming in compared to just 2. So we had to think, how do we scale that, right? So for $500, we were able to, I think it was like right around 8x their fundraising to fund those cash distributions, but we also leveraged text messaging and Twilio for Salesforce in order to allow people to text in when they needed financial support. And they were able to then do that application process very quickly. So they were able to respond in that conversational way about, do you need rent assistance? Push 1, push 2, do you need food assistance? Push that sort of thing. And that then led them to an application, which we then put just $500 behind for paid ads, so that when they landed on that application page, if you didn't complete the application, you were encouraged to complete it, as an example. It really doesn't take a lot of money. I know, but it does take a little bit of money. And I would say just start with an audience of people who visited your website. So embed that Facebook pixel, start with $500, and then build an audience of people who've already given to your organization. Just simply upload those emails, and then build a lookalike audience. So Facebook will do that for you. You can say, make me an audience that looks like my current audience. So that's just a little bit of tactical tips there on paid.
Great, thanks, Matt. And maybe I'll choose one more question, and then we'll just go through the list of questions. Anyone, any of our panelists today, feel free to snag a question that calls to you. But let's point this one to Jacob and Janet from Twilio. So we've got some questions about, is Twilio paid service or free? I know, Jacob, you just talked a little bit about Twilio for nonprofits, how to apply. Maybe just a reminder, and any other things that you want to cover about getting started and how to get started.
Yeah, I can provide just a quick description of how Twilio functions as a company. We're all a usage-based product. So when you send a text message, there is a little cost, a fraction of a penny associated with that. And so that means that the cost incurred is entirely related to the scale of your programs. And as you scale and you're getting more donations, there's additional cost there, but it's all in alignment with the scale that you're working at. But through the Impact Access Program in Twilio.org, we work really hard to make sure that first you have resources to help you get started, doing some testing in a way that's going to work for a nonprofit budget. That's why we offer a $500 Kickstart credit. And then we also offer exclusive pricing discounts to nonprofits to ensure that as you're scaling, you do have the absolute best pricing that we can offer, so that it's going to work for your budget.
Excellent. Thanks for explaining that. Yeah, and we'll include that apply link again and in an email. So you'll see that in addition to more info about CauseMic and how you can leverage their brain power to do more good for your nonprofit. So how about Matt? Why don't you choose a question that calls to you? Are you seeing any ones that you want to make sure you address?
Oh, I really liked the question that while I think Jacob was sharing, it came up about how do you grow a list of of cell phone numbers for your donor base? Because everyone has email addresses for donors. How do you grow that list of text cell phone numbers so you can text message? And we've actually partnered with Twilio on some pretty cool content where we've experimented with paid, or again, like ads. They don't have to be paid. They can be organic social too. And we use we'll do an infographic like text in Harvey or something like that for a disaster. And so you use that channel to move to text message so that you can then get them to opt in on that. So that's one way to move from one channel to another. Another way is actually with events, right? A lot of nonprofits do special events, or they do speaking engagements, or programmatic, kind of those sort of in-person engagements. We've built lists that way too. Another way, honestly, is in a new donor welcome series in email that can happen after someone makes an initial contribution or signs up for your email, like a new supporter welcome series. We've actually deployed surveys, again, that encourage people to move that survey to text message because we see major donors use cell phones too. So, those are just three creative ways. There's other ways, like you can buy, of course, you can use a tool, a platform called Touchpoints to buy that data. But the problem is that you have to get people to opt in. You can't just spam people. So those kind of tactics are not advised, as opposed to kind of moving them from one channel to another.
Yeah, plus one to what Matt said, absolutely make sure people opt in, helps ensure that you aren't flagged as spam, you stay compliant, and it also just creates the best experience for your supporters. The one thing I would add is, to the examples that Matt provided, we often see people look at either SMS-based opt-in or non-SMS-based opt-in. And that SMS-based is anytime you put a call to action for someone to text into your phone number, and then you can get opt-in there. Non-SMS would be anything like a web form or an email, or one day when we have in-person events again, if you have someone sign up to receive text messages in person, anything like that where you're gathering concrete opt-in is a great way to offer that channel. And when you think about getting opt-in, just consider, what is the value you're providing to that channel? It's not SMS for SMS's sake. It's thinking about when it would be a good time for people to want to opt into that. If you have like a time-bound campaign or something where you want to provide quick action to people.
Great. Yeah, thanks for adding that on, Jacob. And just a reminder, before you part ways, share with us in chat one thing that you learned or one thing you're eager to try out with your nonprofit. So let us know in chat. We'd love to see that, even if it's just a one-word response, we'll take it. And let's just do one more question. Jacob or Janet, is there any question calling to you?
I'm just now reviewing them. Apologies for the waiting.
No worries. I kind of put you on the spot. I relinquished my moderator duties, so no worries. And there's even a list of answered ones already that I saw you have reviewed some of these already.
I would love to punt and pitch one over to Matt if I can. And one thing I've heard a lot is skepticism around the value of paid social. But I've heard from numerous people that they're actually seeing a lot of success on paid social. So I was wondering if you have any thoughts to close on the value of using that channel.
Yeah, I'll say that across, hundreds of organizations, we have not seen that. We've seen that is a very effective way to stand out in a crowded space. So paid social, particularly Facebook, is the cheapest way to really get in front of an audience and solicit donations. It doesn't take a lot of money. We have clients, of course, that are spending, tens of thousands of dollars, $100,000 on paid ads. But there's also, like I said, clients that are spending $500 and they're moving the needle. And here's why. You take Giving Tuesday, right? We raised, as a community, we raised more money this year than ever before, right? That trend will continue, but it's becoming increasingly crowded. So one of the ways that you can stand out, unfortunately, these social media platforms, of course, they create an audience for you to engage your supporters, but long gone are the days when you can reach people organically. You can't do it. You can't build your audience that way, and you can't reach them. You're only gonna reach like 2% through organic social. But with paid, you can spend a little bit of money and you can build these really awesome audiences for other organizations that support organizations like yours, as an example. And you can test and you can get real time, so what we'll sometimes use, we'll use paid digital to see which messaging works. And then on channels we own, where we know we have a higher opt-in, open rate or whatever, we then use the content that worked really well on paid for, say, email or for text. So now you're delivering content that's really interesting. So that's like the secondary effect of paid, right? You're doing testing to see what people really like, so that way your unsubscribe rate doesn't go up. So there's both the obvious stuff, like this actually converts and we use UTM parameters and we can track based on, channel. But then there's the not so obvious, right? The things like you can actually test what's working on a channel that you don't own, and then move it to an own channel. So we're huge proponents of leveraging paid as a part of an omni-channel strategy.
And just want to share this comment from Joel in our chat. Joel said he liked learning how to build mobile number lists to opt in by sending social messages with the text word out to our number. But wait, actually the one I wanted to read in regards to what you just shared, Matt, was from Sherry saying our nonprofit recently gained 2,000 new emails through paid ads on Facebook. And we're currently at $3.04 per name. So very cool. And
that's actually really good.
Facebook.
Maybe people are using the Facebook lead form. That is awesome. You can use Facebook lead form with Zapier, put it into your system, send an email, get them to opt into text. That's what we're talking about right there. I mean, you can do that as a small nonprofit because of, honestly, I know I'm like throwing out a bunch of love here, but Twilio and TechSoup both make that possible technology-wise, content-wise. So yeah, I would say take action. Big takeaway. Take action.
Love it. Yep. And some other good ideas here for how to take action from our audience. So take a look at that chat. And with that, we have to go. It's been a blast. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everyone's questions, but appreciate how engaged everyone is. And once again, Jacob, Matt, and Janet, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having us, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And please take our survey. You'll see it once you X out of Zoom. It takes 30 seconds or less. So with that, everyone have a great day, have a great evening, and we'll see you all around. Bye, CauseMic. Bye, Twilio team.
Bye. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.